3.
All right, we're at Sunshine Games with Mohammad Fattah. Why don't you tell everyone what you did today?
So I played in the Premium Vanguard Shop Challenge, and I got top 2. So we'll just get into the deck profile. So to start off with, we play one Bermuda Triangle Cadet Riviere starter. We play the old one, and it's very important that we play the old one, and I'll get to it in a minute. The trigger lineup is very standard. We play 4 Glittery Baby Lean. It's just your standard drop PG. It's better than playing a grade 1 PG for a specific reason that will also be explained in about a minute. We played 4 standard heals, 4 premium collection crits, which is important because they shove themselves into the soul to draw a card, and soul is a very important resource in this deck. And you run out of it very quickly. And just 4 more standard crits. 8 crits. You want to max out on crits because they just win you the game. So for grade 1s, I'll go through these together. We play 4 Mermaid Idol Riviere. Its skill is in hand. You can Soul Blast 1, ride this card on top of your grade 1, and then look at the top 7 for any card with Riviere's name at your hand. If you Soul Blast a starter, you draw a card. If you ride this card on top of your starter looks at the top 7 for either the grade 2 or the grade 3 Riviere. You play 4 copies of Hardy Dancer Courage. This is the best grade 1 ride in the deck because the other text on the starter is if it's rode by not this card, it effectively gains Forerunner and pulls itself out. You can shove it into Soul with this and then search a copy of your grade 1, and then at worst, you get to use this card in your hand, Soul Blast your starter, and you get to draw a card. So your starter says draw 1, or you go +2 by searching a 1, 2, or 3.
A lot of drawing for no reason, huh?
Yeah, lots of value in this deck. Very hard to beat. And then lastly, we play 2 copies of Immaculate Symbol Freya. This card shoves itself into Soul, discards a card, and rides this from your deck if this is on your Vanguard circle. These are all the grade 1s you play so that you can always have an optimal grade 1 ride because you pretty much have to have this card on your Vanguard circle for your deck to work. This also gives your Riviere Vanguard the text that all your cards have resist, which is quite useful in a lot of matchups. For grade 2s, we play 4 Super Idol Riviere. This is just the standard version. I don't like playing the one of the old card. I feel like having the 4 copies of the standard version is much better because you typically want to re-ride the 2-drop on your 2-drop because it gets you much more value than just riding the grade 3 naturally on top of the 2-drop. We play 4 copies of Maturity Talent Selena. So this card says if this is on your Vanguard circle, I'm sorry for this bad positioning, but
That's okay.
If this grade 1 is on your Vanguard circle, you can shove this 2-drop into your Soul, discard a card, and then ride this 2-drop from your deck. You could do this going first even, so if your opponent's on a grade 0, you could still be on your grade 2 before they even gotten to do anything, which is quite powerful. For the rest of the grade 2s, we play 3 copies from Colorful Pastroli Caro. This lets you search a copy of your grade 3 Vanguard by Soul Blasting 2, which is why you need the critical trigger, the premium collection critical trigger to get more soul, and lets you search Ultimate Stride or lets you search a Progenitor Dragon Stride. It's once per turn, but that's irrelevant. I teched in 2 copies of Heat Elemental Bobo. So this deck has literally no good first strides. So this card makes your good first stride usable by giving you a counterblast because pretty much every Bermuda first stride needs a counterblast or it has no text. And that's the grade 2 lineup. We played a grand total of 10 grade 3s. We played 4 Top Out Riviere.
Fancy.
The effect to draw was almost irrelevant. You just ride it because it's a Vanguard with Riviere and it gives you a Force Gift.
How are you feeling about the errata?
The errata has like no effect in this deck. This 2-drop, the only effect is you can no longer play the game where you could search all like 3 of these or 4 of these and then attack with this card through like 5 triggers because you can't ride all of your grade 3s anymore, but you could still attack with this card 3 times because when this attacks, this bounces to hand and comes back from rested. So you could still like ride back down to a grade 2 and then grade 2 game your opponent going second that way, but The rider had basically no effect. You play 4 copies of Spirited Star Choice. I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing it. That's how I'm going to call it for the rest of the video. This card says Counterblast 1 if it's in your hand. Shuffle a card from your hand into your deck, and then ride Riviere from your deck. And if you rode on top of a grade 3 with this effect, you can stride a Riviere from your G-Zone, which we'll get to in a second. And when your Vanguard with Riviere in its name attacks, if your Vanguard is grade 4, you Soul Blast 1 and stand this card. Another example of the Soul Blast cost of this deck. And you can get a lot of multi-attacking. It's like playing an Axel deck, but you have force numbers. And lastly, we played 2 Murajane. It just gets you soul if you need it. It gets you back ultimate stride fodder if you need it. It's just a very versatile card, and it gets you a ridiculous amount of value. So that's it for the main deck. Going over to the...
What's the reason you played the draw PG instead of the 1 drop?
Going over to the G-Zone. We play 2 copies of Chocho Popular Favorite Terua. This card in tandem with this card will net you, just these 2 cards together will get you this attack, your Vanguard attack, this restands, this attack, so that's 3 attacks already. This will get to restand and attack a 4th time, and then this can attack a 5th time, and that's with just 1 of these. It stacks up even more if you have 2 of them, or if you have 1 of these and 1 of these. So you can have just stack 4 skiffs on a side circle because Terua is already ridiculously powerful as it is.
So a lot of us were playing 3 of this. Why do you only play 2?
I wanted to opt to play some more options in the G-Zone, which I'm going to get to in a second. I felt that if you strode this card twice at that point, you would have already won or lost the game, or you would have declared ultimate stride at that point. There are very few matchups where you need to grind into the 3rd one, and there are much more versatile first strides. The next card we play in our G-Zone was 2 Legendary Idol Riviere. You mostly play this because it's the only Riviere stride for this card's effect, for Choice's effect. But if you do not resolve Choice's effect to stride it, it does actually have some useful text. It draws you a card, it gets 10,000 power and gains a crit, and gives typically 2 or 3 units another 5,000 power, which is quite valuable when you have a bunch of restanders in your deck. One other card we played as a 2 of was 2 Shizuku. Shizuku is one of the strides I was talking about that you could first stride. It says Counterblast 1, flip a copy of itself, look at the top 7, and in this deck effectively only adds up to 2 grade 3s. We don't play any Shizukus, so the guard restrict isn't a thing, but it's there. It helps you search out ultimate stride or restanders. The relevance of these and this is that because your Vanguard retains the name of your heart card, the card directly under it, all of these will have Riviere in their name. So your Troyes and your Selenas will always restand when your Vanguard attacks, as long as this is on your Vanguard circle, which is the gimmick of the deck. We played a number of 1-ofs. We played 1 Chocho Lillinel. It's an on-hit. It's for if you don't have Bobo and you get to go first. You don't have Progenitor Stride or anything. You just have normal Stride. It's on hit. You can bottom deck a rear guard to draw 2 cards. It typically forces your opponent to guard, or you just get more value. It's just the best card they have to first stride if they're in that bad a situation. I never stride this card, but it is situationally good. Shandy is okay, but the Harmony effect never gets off. The Harmony continuous effect, I mean, not the Harmony to gain Harmony. It basically makes a column. It lets you try and find your choice, although it's a little late because you've already attacked with your Vanguard. But it can thin your deck of bad cards, or in certain matchups, it can dig for the card that gives your board resist. So if you're playing into Kagero, my bad, it's not resist. It's your units cannot be chosen by the effects of your opponent's cards. It's the same text as resist, just without the word resist on it. So we also played 1 Perfect Performance Ange. This card's just situationally good. It's if you get locked, this card bounces cards, not just rearguard cards, so it can bounce your lock cards to your hand, freeing up your board. It's also effectively a quad driver that draws you another card, so it's just nets you 5 cards in a turn, and you can just call your own board to bounce. We play 1 Wire Progenitor because if your opponent is on a grade 2 and this is the first card you stride, they're probably just going to die if you hit a crit. Retiring your opponent's guardians is very good. It doesn't work on opponent autos, so like if your opponent perfect guards your attack, I mean, you could retire it, but it's not going to do anything. They still perfect guard it. They still don't take the damage, but you still triple drive, restand any of your restandards, and just get to force your opponent to guard awkwardly or not even guard at all. We want... Oh.
No, go on.
We play one Megiddo. So Megiddo is actually probably my second favorite ultimate stride. It's very, very good. Typically with your Megiddo turn, you want to call 2 or 3 of this card, 1 of this card, and when they start switching around, because you could just stack your force gifts like this on one of your front circles, they could just switch and all attack on top of this, and then after they're done attacking, you could just switch back to them after you've switched out when your Vanguard attacks, because it's still going to be named Riviere because of the heart card. All 3 of these will restand. These can all still switch, and this can bounce and call itself, and then this can just switch in at the last attack. So it's a lot of attacks at a lot of power, because it's like putting 3 triggers on each of your units before they attack, which is quite convenient. For G Guardians, that's all for the strides. For the G Guardians, we play 2 Highest Society Citron. This card guards for 25 if you call a card from your hand, a grade 1 or greater from your hand. Calling a grade 1 or greater is very relevant, because this card only works on your grade 3 Vanguard, and because of that, if you stride, you can't use this card, but you can call this card from your hand on your opponent's turn, and then search Ultimate Stride on their turn, and then this can go around most guard restricts and just guard like this for 30, which is very good in and of itself. 1 Leona. Leona bounces a rear guard, and then if you guard with a card with the same name as that rear guard, it gains another 5,000 shield. So it just sets up your board, helps you get guards however you want. 1 Dismal for the DI matchup, so that you can just mess with a Brufus turn if you don't have this. You can also mess with the Brufus turn by using this to call this if they don't think you have it or don't know you have it. And lastly, we play 1 Blessed Sparkle Sandy. This card guards for a really big number and lets you ultimate stride, second stride, because it's just your flip G guard, and it doesn't have to counterblast for its effect to flip. It just has counterblast to gain 5k, and it gains 5k for every 2 cards in your hand. But that is the G Zone. The reason I opted to play this deck over anything else with the ban list was I still feel Gold Paladins is a good deck, but I feel that if Gold Paladins high rolls, they don't high roll as well as this deck high rolls. And I feel that into all the other matchups that you could play, I think Luard got slightly better, dictated by my loss to it earlier today. But I also think that deck profile coming soon. But I think that Luard got much better and much more consistent with Dragon's Vanity. And I think that if you just high roll against a lot of decks, it's very hard for them to deal with either Progenitor Stride or triggering Bobo to get more grade 3s or anything. And that is why I opted to play this. Also, if I didn't mention it earlier, we play these grade 0 PGs because we want to play only optimal grade 1 rides. No matter what, with only these 10 grade 1s, even if you G assist, no matter what you hit on a grade 1, you will hit this card. So it just lets you use this card to ride up and just fixes your hand, fixes your chain. Pretty much always you want to mulligan for this card if you can, but there are the hands where you can't. So other than that, that pretty much covers everything. One change I considered is finding room to play another Mira Jane, because sometimes I wish I had it, but I didn't. And the G Zone is fairly tight as it is. I'd potentially cut Shandy, but Shandy is deck thinning. So other than that, this is the list that I played with, and best of luck to you all.
All right. Thank you for showing us your deck profile, and we hope to see you in coming weeks.
Thank you all.